say I'm actually nervous. But I think if I wasn't nervous, I'd be a little worried. That would probably mean I don't care about what I'm about to sit here and do and join into the talano of these two lovely ladies. But welcome everybody to the FETU Creative Forum. Tonight is an all wāhine panel. Woo! And that's actually, to be honest, that was probably the main reason why I said yes. When Bonni and Lance had messaged and asked and said, hey, we've got the second panel on, we've got Pati and we've got Jazz on. And I was like, I was nervous because, this is different. I obviously do this for a living. For those that don't know, I work on New FM, that cater to our Pacific community. But this is different when you're sitting in front of people and talking. I'm used to just the Mike and Henry and Four Walls and all my colleagues annoying the heck out of us during those 4 hours. But welcome to tonight. Before we get started, I guess I'll ask the lovely ladies to introduce themselves. Whoever would like to go first.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Queen.
Kia ora koutou, ko Jazz tuku ingoa. I whakapapa to Ngāpuhi, Ngātirangi and Ngāti Haua, which is a recent discovery of mine. I come from a big family. There's 11 of us, so I have 10 siblings, and then there are 10 moko in my family, so I think that's where my community vibes come from, and that's why I love and want to do what I can for the next generation that comes through. I'm also super passionate about the arts. I kind of dabble in any artistic practice I have capacity for. But yeah, a little bit about me, and I'm going to hand it over to Miss Pati.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Pati AF, formerly known as Disciple Pati. Who am I? I'm a singer. I'm a singer and a musician hailing from South Auckland, Mangere, and my villages are Saleaula, Faleasi'u, Vaimasinu'u, and Moataa Erdai. Moataa Erdai. And similar to Jazz, I enjoy kind of widening the idea of what it means to experience music, so figuring out how to create worlds instead of just performing and releasing gigs, and finding ways to give the audience an experience where they're in the story, they're not just observing or listening to the story. And yeah, that's a bit of me and my journey, yeah.
Which is why we're pretty much going to focus on tonight's talano. We're going to talk about journeys, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it's funny because you touch on capacity, and you also just touch on widening the stuff that you create and all of that. Because I think just touching on with Pati first, what you said, with the musicians. Personally, I don't think we have enough Pacifica female artists. As a radio announcer, and even at the moment while covering my boss, and as I go through the logs, I'm like, damn, there's very limited female artists. I know the talent's out there. Let's, as you said, proud South Aucklander, I know the talent in South Auckland is crazy, but the Pacific talent in general is mental. And it's just, I think a lot of us don't touch onto it. What is it like for you when you create? Because I think compared to I guess the mainstream type of artist, your style is very unique, and I think I like that you are not afraid to just be unapologetically you, which is one of the things I actually admire about you. But what does that mean? What does that mean for you though, to know that you stand out because you're not afraid just to be Pati?
What does it mean for me because I'm unafraid?
Yeah.
I think it means sometimes you will be afraid, I think, just to speak to what you were saying before about Pacific female artists not being enough, I think that for a big part of the music industry likes the idea of, there's a very specific type of Pacific, woman artist really, that is successful in New Zealand and that's successful in the music industry, period. And as you know, a lot of us Pacific women, we're kind of, our opinions and our voice and how we choose to speak up on things is fostered into us from a real young age. And I've had a lot of obstacles with dealing with that, and I think that to be unafraid, to speak to what you were saying before as well, is it's actually important for me to be unafraid to be this way, so that when the next person comes along that is just the same, or like, you know, has just as much attitude and is just as bold,
Yeah.
they don't experience so many barriers to accessing a career in music. And yeah, does that answer the question, or don't? Let's just talk like 3 minutes.
Does that answer to the crowd? As long as us get the conversation. And you know, let's touch a little bit before we get to the capacity thing later, Jasmine. Can you guys fill us in a little bit about what is your approach, or how do you guys go about your creative process into the fields that you are part of?
I think for me, I'm very much a moods person. So like I can wake up and like I had an idea in my head the night before of what I wanted to do, but it can change.
Yeah.
And I allow myself to feel that, and I allow myself to go through that and just do what I want to do in that moment, if I can. Like if I'm bogged down by like a job and I don't have the capacity to branch out and do what I want to do in the moment, then that's different. But if I have the control over that, then I will do what I feel. So when it comes to like writing music, for example, a lot of my stuff comes from like emotions or like what I was feeling in the moment, and I allow myself to process that into a song or a creative piece, and it always makes me feel better. Like it feels like therapy, which I'm sure many creatives can agree with. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I've got a question though, because you know, I think the first time I met Jazz, I remember you weren't a mother yet. Has the creative process come easier, or what's the difference between being a creative before you were a mum and now being a mum? I'm just curious, is there any difference in it?
I think yes. I had way more freedom before having children, obviously. I have 2 babies. I didn't say that in my intro, but they're 2 and 4. But now I think I have a stronger drive. Like before, my creativity might have just been like anything, like spontaneous, just everywhere. But now that I have children, it's like, oh, I have to do something for them. And so my drive is stronger. I know that they're reliant on me being successful, or like just showing them that you can be a creative as well, because they're so used to what I do. They're so used to my lifestyle that I feel really proud of that, because I'm like, they're not going to grow up and be like, oh, I want to do this creative thing, but I don't know if I'm going to be supported, or I don't know if it's the norm or anything like that, because what's normal to them is that their mum and their dad are both creatives, and we will be on set sometimes and our workplaces change, and they don't even question that or feel weird about it. They're like, oh, what are you doing today? Are you in front of the camera, or are you like, can I watch your movie? You know, that's so normal, and I love that. It makes me really emotional, like happy emotional, because I'm like, this is what I wish I saw growing up. So yeah, I feel really proud of that.
We will come back as well to the talking about like the kids being able to experience what you're doing as parents. What about you, Pati? Like, what is the process like for you when you jump into all this creative stuff that you do?
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody knows this about me, but I actually my degree is in screen production. So I mostly just did music for money. I did it for cash because, so I started out in a covers band. I did like from 16, I would do like these like singing like, you know, Wagon Wheel and like.
Can we get a demo?
Sorry, I just.
Oh, can we swear?
Oh, okay.
We can swear we're gonna go for one.
Let me just ask that question first. Like, you know, sing fucking Wagon Wheel and like long train running and like somebody's like, bar, you know, that was how I got my bread and butter.
Yeah.
But because of that, because I started off in film, the focus there is about storytelling, and it's about storytelling with your experience. How do you engage with the audience and show them what you're going through, not tell them? And so when I started to get into music, my goal was similar to Jazz, to tell the emotions, but also to describe the world, because we make decisions not out of context, like not in a vacuum. We make them a lot of the times. Those are the best possible choices that we had, and people don't understand that because they don't understand the world that it comes with. So for me, world building is so important, and that comes from being able to storytell. So that's my creative process. Is what is the story? Where did the story start? Where do I want it to start? Where do I want it to go? What do my low points look and feel like, and how do I put the audience, like, their body in it? Like, they feel, like, you'll feel the secondhand embarrassment, you know, like, or feel the like pain when somebody said what they said, instead of me saying like, yeah, that was really sad when he said that to me and now I'm crying in my bedroom. It's like, no, we're watching it instead of, you know, hearing it. So yeah, that's a bit about my creative process.
You sound very organized. The way you put it down, I'm like, damn, this girl sounds like she knows how to plan. But bring it back to, you know, you were talking about just the kids normalizing, I guess, them seeing like this is mum and dad's way of making bread and butter, putting food on the table, all that kind of stuff. What was it like for you guys as creatives, or any obstacles with your, I guess, your parents or your family in general, when you decided to go down the creative path? Because I guess now it's a little different, but I would imagine, you know, a little while back there, before there was more funding and things available like that for our Pacific people, a lot of the older generation, they look at it like, you can't get any money to pay the bills out of going to dance, going to sing, you know, going to just cover in their Palangi man's bar and sing those sweet songs. What were the obstacles there with your family when you said, hey, this is what I want to do? And yeah.
I think for me, I've always been a dreamer, like big dreamer, like since I was young. Like, I don't know if it was escapism or if it was like, if it's genuinely part of my personality, I really am not sure yet. But I remember when I first started trying to write songs and like get into the music industry, it didn't feel like, I don't want to talk about it without, like, how do I talk about this without being like, or whakaeting my whānau, but they just didn't think that, I don't know, maybe they didn't think I was going to be committed to it, or maybe they thought, oh, this is another one of her things, like, she's eventually going to, like, get over that. And so, like, it's not that they didn't support it, but they didn't get behind me and go, like, yeah, go.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time. It honestly took me to release my first single for them to go, oh my gosh, she's finally doing it. Like, everything she said she'd do, she's here now and she's doing it. And then they finally actually got behind me and they were like, whoa, you know, like heart eyes, like I could see it in their faces. But getting to that point, oh my goodness, it was such a struggle. Like, to, you know, I like would fight with my siblings because I just needed a babysitter, or like, you know, really, really mundane things that were really important to me, and it was hard for me to like explain that importance to them. But when they finally saw it and they were at my show where I released my first song, they were like, whoa, this is what you've been talking about all these years, literally years. So yeah, for me that's my experience, and I'm just grateful that I'm now on this side because that was hectic.
What's the hardest part though about that, when, like, you know, just for example, even just being like, oh my gosh, please just babysit my kid, but what's the hardest part about knowing that your family get you but they don't?
I think the hardest part for me was like, you've known me my whole life, how can you not see this, you know? And because when other people come along and they do that, it's like, oh, you don't know who I am, so it doesn't matter. But when it's your but when it's your family, you're like, man, you are the ones who are meant to know me this deep and know that I've always loved performing, or I've always loved art. So for me, that was the hardest part, that people that I loved and trusted the most didn't get that side of me. And it's not even personal. It's not even me. It's like, I get that now. I'm like, oh, okay. My whole family are so creative, and I know that if they really applied themselves, they'll do really well. And I think that is why they saw, or they thought, oh, she won't do it, because, you know, that's what they're thinking in their minds. So, like, they think that they're not good enough to be in the places that I'm in, so then how come you can do it? You know, it was that kind of energy. To be honest, I am really, really grateful for great friends, because they are the ones that help me through all of that. A lot of my creative friends go through the same thing. So I'd be able to like talk to them about it, and they're like, oh, I totally get it, just keep going. And that's how I got through all of that and got to the point where they were finally like, oh, we get it now. Like, thanks.
Which is beautiful that now that we get it. See, it reminds me of, you know, like when you see stuff on social media that says, oh, strangers will support your business before your family. It kind of like that springs to mind when you talk about that. Has this experience been similar for you as well, Pati, with just family when you jumped into the creative space and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I come from, so I'm an upper, and
what?
I'm an upper. My last name is Up. One of my last
sorry.
names is.
I was like, what?
She's like, okay, let's just calm down.
I was like, we're talking about hierarchies or something? Sure.
I'm like, yeah.
Sorry. I was genuinely confused. It's like, what the upper's going on?
What the upper? Oh my gosh. Shall I just shut the upper up?
I'm just slow. Sorry, I should have disclaimed at the beginning. I'm a
No,
little
you're
slow
okay,
at times.
Sorry, what was the question?
Well, what was the question? Oh, when you said you're gonna jump into the creative space,
Yeah.
what was it like with your family? Were they supportive, or what was that? Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm an upper. My last name is Upper. That side of my family is super, in the village they call my pops like, oh, that's the Ainga Professor. So it's like the professor family. So
okay.
There's a lot of academics in our family, and they like to, like, that's a career path that's very honorable for them. Because it gets money, you get status, and you look good. Well, you do work in the community, obviously, but like it's honorable work that we frame as honorable. And on my mum's side, the Fepuleais, she's one of the first to kind of get quite a good role in upper management. So from both sides of my family, there's quite a strong push to get jobs in upper management, in business, in academia, in professorship, or whatever the fuck that's called. Yeah, so pursuing a creative route was giving like, oh, so you're just a bum. So the rest of us are just working our asses off, going to the office.
She's going to
going to the studio, singing to your little mic. Yeah, so it wasn't like seen as an honorable lifestyle, because even though all of my family is like really musical, like they all play like 5 instruments each. Yeah, there's crazy musical, but pursuing it is like, oh, you're doing nothing with your life. It's not seen because, in my perspective, I think it's because it's associated heavily with nightlife and with alcohol. A lot of the times you go to these venues, it's like 9:30, there's somebody's fucking wasted and talking to themselves in the corner, you know what I mean? So it's not seen as something that is artistic or like of any value to society. And I really had to like work quite hard to show my parents that all storytelling forms are valid. It doesn't matter where they come from. Like just because it doesn't come in an essay doesn't mean that there is
2,000 words.
Exactly. I'm like, girl, I'm not writing 2,000 words. Hello. Yeah. So, that was what it was for me, was like just explaining to them, just because it's not in an academic journal, or just because you guys aren't talking about it within your circles, doesn't mean that these aren't real experiences that people go through that aren't valid. So that was the kind of big conflict in my family, which, it's never going to go away. It's just something that you kind of have to deal with as time goes on and figure out how it's going to show up this time. Yeah. Like, it's not going to show up in conversation where it's like, oh, well, Pati, she just blah, 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 does this anymore. But it might show up in another way, whereas it's like, oh, well, I didn't bring up like what you do to my friends because I don't, da-da-da. Like, my parents are not like that, but that's a way it can show up. So I'm like throwing my mum under the bus. She's like, excuse me, I'm very supportive.
We will cut this out of the YouTube viewing.
Sorry, Tifatuora.
I want to jump in. There's a question I think I was going to save to the end, but I think I'd like to jive. To dive. I was thinking of jump and dive. Jive. Dive into it now. Just sharing what you guys have shared, especially, you talk about like your family being academic and yours being musical, and not no one actually pursuing it like yourself. As a Pacific woman, what is like do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions, just being a Pasifika woman in the space that you're in? Because obviously I can't say you're in one space, because you do. I've seen you do your thing with Lady Six on the stage. I've seen you in the theatre space, and so what is the biggest misconception you feel you've experienced in the spaces that you've both been in? Because yeah, I mean, while you guys think about it, I think for me, sorry, it's not about me, but I thought since you guys need time to think about
It's about you.
the answer. See, I think for me, and I don't know if this is a misconception, but this is in my POV, point of view. What's POV? I just feel like I'm 18 saying POV. Sorry. But I think a misconception for me being in the radio, right, in the radio industry, is people just assume that the woman behind the mic is going to be this petite little lady. And then when I jumped into the scene, to be honest, I don't know many plus size, curvy, brown women in the scene. And so when I meet people, they're like, oh, you're nothing like I expected you to look like. In my head, I'm like, I'm a bit offended, bitch. Like, what the hell am I meant to look like? But then I realized, you know, also it's been this idea of radio in general has always been these small white ladies. And like for me, I feel like, cool, this is my way of trying to break that barrier to show other brown women, no matter what size, shape, whatever, that you can sit behind that mic and just get paid to talk shit because it's fun.
Period.
So just wake up and yappa and then go home. So that's what the misconception is for me, and you know, so I guess what's been something for you in the spaces you've been in.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a misconception, kind of mistake.
Sorry, my lack of English is spreading through the crew.
But just hearing you talk about that, I thought of a moment when I was actually dancing on stage with Lady Six. It was actually right after having my second baby. I jumped in like 3 weeks later or something. Like it was, yeah, she was real young.
Superwoman, man.
I was just, honestly, I was like, I need some fitness and there's a cool gig coming up with 660 and I want to be there. That's how that happened. But I'm so grateful it happened. I had some friends in the audience, and one of my friends, she told me that she heard someone go, oh my gosh, I love the thick woman representation on the stage, because, you know, that's like, I think Lady Six, she really wanted her dancers to be a representation of who she is and who she's been in the music industry. So that was like quirky, unapologetically brown, but also different and loving, like super loving. So we had to like tick those boxes to even be like acknowledged or asked to be a Sixes. So anyway, when my friend Cass told me that she heard that in the audience, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes me feel so much better, because I remember coming out on stage and being like, "Wow, this is the biggest I've ever been, but I'm still going to do it anyway because, I'm here, I love this, and it's not about what I look like, it's not my show." Like, and then so to hear that, I was like, oh man, that made me feel so much better, because I was like 3 weeks postpartum having my second child, like. And I remember, like, disclosure, I was like jumping around, if you've had a baby, you know. I was like jumping around and like peed myself a little bit. No. But from there on, I was like, oh my gosh, right, I have a mum bladder now. Like, I can't be like just jumping around like normal. So I was feeling a bit embarrassed after that gig, but then hearing my friend say that, I was like, oh, that makes me feel heaps better, thank you.
See, but representation is important, right? And I think that's the game changer for a lot of our Pacific people in general, that are in all the spaces, whether it's in the office, whether it's in the arts, wherever they are now, our people are actually changing narrative, and like they're there to show, hey, people of color can be here as well. You know, just if it makes you feel any better. I mean, I haven't had any kids, but I feel like I already have a mum bladder.
I was just gonna say, I also have bladder issues.
Oh, no, I went to the gym the other day. I can't remember what movement we did. And then I jumped, and I just remember, I think I just did. But you know what, shout out to my friend. She has like these G-strings that are like made for exercise. They saved me. Shout out Ray below 90.
I know how to save me, yeah.
Oh, but I love that for you, that you heard that made you feel better. But isn't it funny just sometimes how I think especially as women, it's not that we should seek the validation we think that, but sometimes that just helps us feel a little bit like, okay, I'm doing what I should be doing. Sort of thing, eh?
Yeah.
Anyways, over to Pati. The misconception question.
Yeah, I think that Oh, sorry, what was the question again?
Just what do you think is one of the big misconception as a Pacifica woman in the spaces that you're in?
I think existing means you will get weird ideas about what and who you are and what's going to happen to you and where you go, what your career looks like, blah, blah, blah. I feel like Pacific and Māori women, I'm not sure, don't know too much about that experience, but Māori people are Pacific. From my experience, it's a weird in-between because we're part of the diaspora, right? So we are not from the islands, but our ancestors moved here, they migrated to this land to give us a lot of opportunities. Opportunities also include gigs. They also include going to live music sessions. They also include going to the recording studio at like 9 o'clock at night sometimes.
Yes.
Those are also what opportunities look like. But because for me, for example, my grandparents, they have such a narrow idea of what an opportunity is. Anything outside of that is like, oh, you're being a guy. You're just gonna go out and gafao and like, you know, be a little shit somewhere. But actually I'm like trying to fucking make money and like make a career.
I'm trying to work.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to get like work hard too. And so I feel like that's something that I get quite often is like, oh, you're just a little shit. Like, you're just a party girl. And you just, you know, you just fuck off and like get wasted and like party and like that's all that you do. But actually, I know that I try not to take it personally because I know it just comes from a lack of understanding about what the scene and what being a creative has to offer to our community. So, and then the other perspective on that is also like, not to be sad to the men and the crowd, but you know, like Lana Lopesi said in Bloody Woman, kaukalai kiki, for those who don't know what that means, it means to be like cheeky or like talk back. For men, that becomes accepted as a part of their personality. It becomes like, oh, that's just how they are, that's just who they are. And they can still do both things at the same time. So they can still go out, be a guy at a sweatshop, and then show up to their job the next day and go home, see their children, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're such a good father. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, whereas for women, the bar is so high. Like, I have no children, you know what I mean? I haven't had a pregnancy scare or anything, but like, my parents are always wondering like, when is it gonna happen? And blah, blah, blah. And like, when are you gonna put away the scar shit and like start your family? I'm like, never, ever. So yeah, that's a misconception I get.
You know what? I got a question about that because when you said the starting the family thing, there's a Pacifica Tongan woman that I follow on social media. She posted the other day, she's married, but her and her husband have decided they don't want kids and they're not going to have kids. What are your thoughts on just in general in our community think life is complete once you've had a family?
What do I think about that?
Yeah, because I mean it's interesting because you know kids, so it'd be interesting to see what the different point of views are.
Excluding Jasmine's children. Excluding Jasmine's children because they actually are darlings, they're actually angels. And excluding a couple of people's children, I actually fucking hate children. I'm so sorry, I hate to say it, I hate to be that girl. I actually, like, I have a very select, you know, group of kids that I mean, I enjoy all children's company, but like, I'm just not.
You need to hang out with my friend Henry.
Yeah.
You and
my dating pool just went like that, yeah. No, but like, I'm just not somebody who is very maternal.
No, but honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I think society expects every female person, woman, to like children and to want to have children. But it's like, just leave us alone if we don't want to.
Exactly. Well,
maybe we just want to try and make children, but
I enjoy that process, yes. That process is very fun. But I think I'm quite lucky because I'm not gonna shut the fuck up. I say what I say. So like whenever I get that question, it's always like, oh, when are you gonna push out some children? Have the next, professor for that family. Like, when are you gonna push out some children? You push them out, and I'll give you a hand. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not doing it myself, but it's just that thing of like people just need to see it. And then, you know, and it's also not to knock. Like, you know, the thing that I think I admire the most about Jazz is the fact that she can juggle being a mother and being a creative. And I think you're right, you know, like, because I have seen Jazz's growth over the past year and a bit now, And I think that her being a mother just adds to her creative process. It adds to like the weight of her story, and it's so relatable for a lot of other young women, because a lot of my friends have children or want to have children. And so I think that it's a very beautiful story to tell. It's just not my story to tell. And it won't be my story to tell forever.
Mum and Dad, there's your answer.
Sorry. Try the other sibling.
What about you though, Jazz? Like, you know, I mean, even before you had kids, was there any kind of pressure like that for you? Or just, you know, because I just feel like for women, it's like, man, just leave them be, you know?
So most of my close friends know this, but lots of other people don't know this. But before I actually became pregnant with my first, I had custody of my siblings. So I had custody of 5 of my siblings, and that was hectic. But also, I care so deeply for my siblings, and I, from a young age, was always, I'm not the oldest in my family, but I was always the oldest in the house. So I already had that, like, maternal, like, had to protect and, like, serve these other kids before myself, always. Like, I made their lunches and breakfast in the morning, and I just did it. Like, I think about it. I just got up and did it, and I never questioned it. And, like, when I got older and I had them in my custody and my care, it became very draining for me, because I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't need that responsibility as a young person, and I took it on too early, and so I burned out really quickly when I was an adult, and then had my own children, and doing all these other things. I forgot what my point was why I said that, but I think because I was already pretty much a parent, and then when it became my own kids, I was like, oh, okay, so these are my own children now. What do I want for them? What do I want to show them? Where do I want to go? It was like answering all those questions allowed me to go, oh, okay, this is who I want to be. And coming back to that misconceptions question, this is actually where I've faced the most misconceptions, because I get it all the time. Like, how do you do that? How are you a mum and you're doing this? Oh, who's got the kids? Like, and I'm like, bro, they've got a dad. Oh my God. Like, they have a dad. You know, it's question. Mums get it all the time. Like, and I always have these conversations with my mum friends, and they're like, yeah, I hate when people ask me that question, because it's like, do you ask the dad that question when the dad is out? Like, who's got the kids? No, because you know the mum has them. Like, why do mums get asked that question all the time, you know? And I know some people don't have that intention in mind, where they're like, where's the kids? Sometimes they think that that's how you banter, you know?
Right. That's not fun banter.
That's not funny.
And also, because when I'm working, like, I make sure I'm very present and I'm doing what I'm doing there and then, so that I don't, like, get emotional about not being with them, like, if I'm away or anything like that. So when people bring it up, I'm sometimes like, like, you know, I'm trying to be in my bag, in my working space, so sometimes it's hard to, like, separate that. But also, getting the questions of, like, how do you do all of that and be a mom? It's like, oh, I do this for them. Like, I do this because I know that, well, I do this because I don't want them to go through the same struggles that I went through growing up, and, like, as a young adult, and even as a teenager, like, having to figure out life on my own. Like, I don't want them to have to go through that. I want them to be children. I want them to experience the world the way they want to experience the world. I don't want to force anything on them. Like, and I hope that the way I do my thing, it shows them that they can do whatever they want, and they can make a living out of it. And I hope that I learn what I can, so that they can do what they want to do, whatever that is, because honestly, they're going to be so creative when they're older. So, yeah.
I love that for your kids, that they've got a mum that, you know, such an open mind. Because it's funny, I actually went swimming pools with one of my girlfriends this morning, and as we walked in, one of the workers goes to a friend, and they go, oh, you know, with your son this morning, but mind you, it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. She's like, what am I going to do? He's asleep. I might as well come for a swim. You know, and I think personally, again, not a mother, But I think because I have so many single mum friends, and I've personally seen like them struggle to make time for themselves. And like, I think that's one thing I really love about women in the creative space. You guys just make it work. And I think it brings me back to what you talked about earlier about capacity. You know, there's something I've learned this year, or I'm continuing to learn and work on, is learning how to fill my own cup. And you know, I think as women in general, it's like, oh, let's look after everyone else before we look after ourselves. Bruh, at 32 now, I can confidently say, I think that is wrong. I can't help fill anyone else's cup if I'm not filling up my own, because then I'm literally just empty, helping them with an empty brain. But the capacity thing, how do you guys look after yourselves on top of being a busy mom, you know, filming all that kind of stuff, making music, and making sure your parents know that you're not going to give them any grandkids? But how do you just like look after yourself and make sure, like, cool, today I know I'm not feeling it, I'm just going to switch off, I'm going to zone out, like, man, you know, like, just how do you juggle all that, especially, I guess, mentally?
I think now, as a 29-year-old, I've gotten better like at being like, oh, like that whole moods thing.
Yeah.
At really sitting and being like, oh, what am I feeling right now and what do I need? But maybe like 10 years ago, I went through this whole like phase of like anxiety and like realizing, oh my gosh, I don't fit in this society. Like, why don't I fit in this society? Like, not realizing I'm not actually meant to fit in this society. And I used to read a lot of books, like self-help books, and listen to lots of audiobooks. I don't think podcasts were very like a thing back then, like 10 years ago. Not as common as they are now. Yeah, and so I was listening to lots of audiobooks and self-help books, and I remember one of them told me to like write 10 things down that make me happy. And it was like at any given time, 10 things that make me happy. So I did this whole 10 things list. And then anytime I was feeling like anxious or emotional and I couldn't get myself out of it, because that's how bad it was back then, I would go to this list and I'm like, oh, don't want to do that, don't want to do that. And I'd find one I want to do. And then I'm like, okay, and then I'd do that. And then it started working for me. I was like, oh, okay, this thing is working. And then it got to the point where I just naturally did that because I practiced it. And so now, 10 years later, I can sit there and be like, what do I feel and what do I need? And I'll just do that for myself so that I can top myself up and be present and be who I need to be and do what I need to do without failing or without like doing it half-assed or like, I just make sure I do something for me that I know I need in that time, because I can then show up properly later on. So,
does that list still look the same with what made you happy 10 years ago as it and now? Yeah,
generally, I can't remember exactly what was on it, but it was things like go for a walk or listen to my favorite song or what else? Watch a funny movie, like things like that. I still use those tools now, today, depending on what the situation is and how heavy it is. But for me, nature is a big one.
Oh, I love nature.
Yeah, a big healer for me. Like I could sit under a tree and just stare at the birds, and then like an hour later, I'm like, oh.
I'm still staring at them.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, and my problems really don't matter. Like, you know, like watching this bird, and I'm like, oh, watching nature for me, I'm like, we really are a byproduct of nature, and the way that society is structured is not how we naturally are meant to move. And nature helped me realize that, and it helped me like just take myself out of society and go, oh, I don't have to fit into this little gap over here. Like I can be over here and still thrive and still do what I need to do and be happy.
See, that's it. And be happy. And be happy. What about
she's clocked it?
Oh no, like listen, she's just like peaceful.
Exactly.
I love that. What about you though, Pati? Capacity wise, like how do you look after yourself, self-care?
I don't. Nah, jokes. I get wasted. No. What do I do? No, I had to stop. Obviously, I don't do that anymore.
Not on Thursdays.
Not on Thursdays. Not on Thursdays. Except for the first Thursday of the month. So. No. It's a hard one, eh? I think that I come from a family who their mantra was like, I don't give a shit, you grit your teeth and you just fucking get through it. And you get those grades and you do what you gotta do. So like that has been my major coping mechanism for a while, is like, just get it over the line, get it done, and then you can breathe after it's finished. The problem with that is that you don't learn to actually enjoy the process or to enjoy the journey. You enjoy the destination and the achievement, but not the journey. So something that I do nowadays is I'm in counselling. That's been very helpful. Yeah, really, really helpful. I've been counselling for like a year and like a half now.
Is that expensive as people say it is?
It is. Yeah, it is. It is. I think there are funding bodies though that you can get it for free as well. So for anyone watching, I'm not too sure what the resources are, but I'm sure I can have a look and then
link below. I don't know if there's a link button.
Yes, there is. And when I couldn't afford it, I just rang 1737 like all the time. Yeah. So I used to do that, and that would just give me like validation. Because when you're in a situation with a bunch of people, right, and it's crazy, and you're all going through the same craziness, crazy becomes normal, chaotic becomes normal.
That's true.
And so you forget that this is not the way that you said before that we should be operating, and it's not healthy. So just having that like 5-minute chat to somebody on like a helpline was so good to just remind me, oh, this is not normal. Like, this is not normal. And then having somebody also to like offer steps and to say like, okay, well, here's a framework that we use in counselling to help people out of XYZ and da-da-da. Another thing which sounds really fancy, but it's really not, is it's a method called cognitive behavioural therapy. So it sounds super fancy, it's really not, it's just journaling. It's just us, yeah, pretty much, yeah. But basically, so these are things that I really had to unpack because I have ADHD, and my brain is just like, not the vibes sometimes. It's great for creativity, but difficult, for everyday functioning. But basically, what cognitive behavioural therapy is it helps you to realise that you are thinking things. So it helps you to observe your thoughts. So when something comes into your brain, for example, like that plant is red, for example. The plant is objectively red, right? That plant is a bad plant because it's red. That is a thought that's come into my brain from somewhere else. And cognitive behavioural therapy asks questions that it basically forces you to assess the thought. So asks like, why do you think that red is associated with bad? Or why do you feel so, where does this emotion coming from? What's the story behind the thought process? So like, I think that red is bad because once I got hit in the face and the person was wearing a red shirt. And so in my head now, all things that are associated with red are bad. But like, it helps you to uncover the story behind your thoughts and why your thoughts happen the way that they do, and helps you to remember, I am not my thoughts. My thoughts are things that just pass me by, and I can choose to pick which ones I want to believe in. So I might wake up one morning now, because I've gone through that process with this fucking red plant. I can now wake up in the morning, right? And that morning I might be feeling bad, I might be feeling like quite achy in my body and maybe a bit sick.
Yeah.
But then I've got 1,000,001 things to do today. And so I'm like, oh, I'm so lazy. I'm so lazy because I'm lying here in bed instead of da-da-da-da. So then because of cognitive behavioural therapy, I can say, oh, am I really lazy? Or like, what are the facts of the situation? I'm lying in bed and I feel sick. Why am I associating lying in bed and resting with feeling lazy? Because in my world, being lazy is resting, and that's something that needs to change in my brain. That's a narrative that I need to change now.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of self-care, is just make sure I'm maintaining what thoughts I'm choosing to focus on and just make sure I feel my emotions. Sorry, that was so long-winded. Did that even make any sense?
Oh no, it definitely makes sense. Actually, I'm like, that's a lot of fucking thinking today.
For overthinkers, it's good, because you're going to overthink it anyway. So you might as well overthink it in a good way,
I think it doesn't even help. So I think in general, I could be wrong, but I think just in general for women, we are naturally overthinkers. Yeah. Like any little thing, like, oh no, da-da-da.
Yeah.
But speaking of, I think I've loved everything you guys have shared so far. I just want to know, what do you guys love most about being a creative, being a Māori Pacifica woman, being a creative? And I think one of the things I love about people in the creative space, I feel like you guys have flexibility and like just you do what you want in your own time. What do you love about doing what you do?
I was going to say that.
Oh.
You can choose.
Sorry, I took your answer.
Yeah. My favorite thing, I think, besides like the storytelling and the like processing of emotions and like telling our individual stories, is being able to choose to do what you want to do and when you want to do it. And I also am super into astrology, and I have been learning about maramataka and stuff, and I've been applying astrological what's happening in the stars and also maramataka to my work, and I've seen how much of a difference it makes. It allows my mahi to flow. I, like even with my single release, I released it or did a release party on my birthday, because the sun, it's your solar return, it's when the sun comes back around and all the attention is on you. Like it just, everything I do now, I will apply those things in my practices, and I have the freedom to be able to do that because I get to choose what I do. So if anything, that's my favorite part. I'm like, oh, yes. And I hope that when I do some really cool things from this, I hope that I can share that with other people and they can apply that to their mahi, because it literally would work for every single one of us. So yeah, that's my favorite thing.
With that thing, the astrology, that word.
The stars.
So English is my second language. Okay, everyone? Does it help you tell the future? Because can you read my palm? I just want to know if I've got any money in my bank account. What about you, Pati?
Do you know what? Jazz actually can probably read the future. Jazz is a very good astrologer. She's very, very good.
Can you predict my future for me?
I can if I see your chart.
Yeah.
What chart?
Yeah.
A birth chart.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll discuss this after.
What was the question again? Sorry?
What do you love about what you do?
What do I love about what I do? I love that it actually forces me to look at myself. That's what I love most. Yeah, so I think that the thing is, right, so to go back to like what I was talking about before with mental health, right? You're a storyteller. What we don't realize is that we're all storytellers, and we tell stories about our situations all the time. And
stories.
Yeah, stories. Yeah. So what's cool about it is that I know what it looks like to like create a story, to build elements in, to like create a world, to create a narrative. And so then I can apply that to my life and say like, oh, well, is this the reality or the truth of the situation? Like, am I feeling slighted because this is the truth? Or is it because I've created a story in my head and I've used? And so then what I can do is take those elements and then apply it to my thinking and be like, okay, well, how else can we change this story? Yeah. And then find ways to tell a story that makes sense to other people going through the same thing, so that they don't feel so alone. They feel seen and heard, and and who knows, maybe they might feel a lot more confident to have conversations with their parents about what they want to do with their careers. Yeah.
Because that's an important conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, I know personally for me, I never really had that conversation with mine, but then everyone knew I just talk a lot, and then they're not surprised that I've ended up in radio. I just wanted to check it out to the crowd, because I think we're going to wrap it up soon, but is there anyone out there in the crowd that had any questions for the two guests? Because he said everyone goes, the two might have questions for us. I was like, no, but they're not the one asking the question. If he's got any questions, just give a yell out, otherwise I'll ask what I want to ask next.
Who's your favourite Aotearoa artist?
Oh, there you go, your favourite Aotearoa artist.
It's Lucky Lance. No. No, yes, it's definitely you guys, homebrew. Who else?
FOS.
Oh yes, yeah. Jasmine.
Pati AF.
Period. Sam V. I really like Sam V. I really like Sam V.
His voice is actually
so amazing, and he's a very skilled performer. Very
he
skilled.
is.
Yeah.
The first time I actually watched him live, him and Aiden Fine,
yeah,
is the other kid's name. I wasn't very familiar with him. He's got the time, and I just stood there and I was like, and then one of my friends goes, wow, and I was like, they're amazing performers. I was like, because people, you know, people can sing. That doesn't mean people can perform. Can't catch you, like, just because you have a voice doesn't mean you can catch everyone's attention. Yeah. But my question I want to ask you guys is, where do you hope, I mean, you know, with your own experiences, what do you hope becomes easier for women in this creative space in, like, let's say, 20 to 50 years' time? Because if you think about your own struggles and stuff that you've had as a woman or as a woman of colour, what do you hope it becomes easier for women in the future?
For me personally, I think normalizing like mums in creative spaces, because actually I started working for Māori Land Film Festival, and one of my mum friends in the group, she brought it up that in the film industry, everybody pretends like they don't have kids because film industry is just so taxing and so like fast that there's no time for parenting. So everyone just kind of doesn't even talk about it. And I have been really, really lucky to dance for Lady Six because she is somebody who has really normalized being a parent in the music industry. And so I've been able to see her and also Rhea Hall as well, who have come out and they've got their, like Rhea had her baby backstage and she's like breastfeeding right before she went on the stage. And I was a mum already, so I was like, oh my gosh, that is so inspiring. And we need to see more of that, like normalize being a mum and being a creative, and that those worlds can collide and our children don't have to come last. Like we're still very much present parents and we can be great in the creative scene. So for me, I think that needs to be normalized and we need to see more of that so that mums don't feel like their life is complete or they stop when they have kids. They can get up and do what they want to do or what they wanted to do before having kids, and it can both work.
What would you say to a mum that has a desire, a dream to pursue something but is scared?
DM me.
Something like that. You're listening
At
on
So
YouTube.
Fucking Jazz, just give me a DM. No, I think support. I think as long as you have support, as long as you see it, like I said, I saw Rhea Hall backstage breastfeeding. Like, if you see it in front of you, then you're like, oh, I don't have to feel guilty, because that's the thing, is mum guilt is real. Like, you're like going and doing this work, and you like the questions that you get asked, or you just, because it's not normal really, not normalized properly yet, it feels like, oh, I'm abandoning my kids or whatever. Mums go through their own things, like right after you've had kids, your hormones are crazy, so you're telling yourself lies like in your mind. So yeah, if you have support around you and you have the desire to do it and you want to put in the work and you want to dedicate your time towards creativity, then DM me.
I love that. I love that. You know, I love that you're here and like having a voice for the mums, because I think you're right. You know, there are spaces where they're just like, oh, where's your kids? And I've seen it too. Like I've seen people do it, and I'm just like, they can be a mum and do that too. Because I have a friend, she like has her own little business now. And at that time, she was like, the relationship was very like rocky, and she was like, oh, I need to learn a new skill. I go, do it. She's like, I don't have the time. I go, you just sit around on the phone on Instagram all day. I go, 2 hours of that class, you can do it. And now she runs her own, and you know, like just, and I'm like, see, I was like, I told you could be your own boss and like still have your kids. So I totally call you in there, and just, you know, supporting mums that they can do it. And because you know what, mums are fucking amazing. They're awesome. No one has strength like a mother in my eyes. But over to you, Pati. What are your hopes for, you know, what for women in the next 20 or so years?
I think that we need to do a lot better for young Pacific and Māori artists coming into the industry. We don't do enough for them. We don't give them enough resources. We don't identify what the barriers to them accessing resources to create live music careers and recording music careers are. We also do not equip musicians in general with the proper understanding that this is an industry, it's a business, and so people, I know that the art is very close to our hearts and it's our stories, and you know, it's important for us to tell them. But you have to remember as well that at the end of the day, it is going on Spotify and it is going through a distributor who is going to monetize it. And if you do not pay attention to your contracts and to the details of your business agreements, you will get fucked over and you will get screwed. And I feel like we just lack so much education on it around that area specifically. But for Pacific women, I think that we need to give them the space to explore identity. I think that is the biggest thing that we really don't allow for Pacific and Māori women. They have to be one thing, and that's all that you can be straight out of the gate. That is so taxing and exhausting, and so the only word I can think of it is like infantilizing. It's like it makes them feel like children, and like they have to be stuck in one thing for the rest of their lives. And it's not fair because we allow men artists to be a whole plethora of different things that we don't allow for women artists. So I think that, well, for me, I hope that we get more of an education around the business side of music and just more on that it's not scary, like it's not something to be afraid of. It's actually something that's got your back if you pay attention to it. Yeah. And it doesn't cheapen your process, it doesn't make the art invaluable, or it doesn't mean that you're putting a price tag on your art. It just means that you're protecting yourself, your story, and the people who want to listen to it and connect with it. That's the number one thing. And the second thing is, if you're a parent, you need to have conversations about creative careers with your children. You need to be talking to them and showing them that there is not just one opportunity. It's to put on a show. There is a lighting designer, there is a sound engineer, there are people who put together the stage, there's the set designers, there are dancers. There are so many career paths that are wrapped up in being a creative, and we're not all just bums on the street, you know, like trying to like scramble for the final gig, you know. We're all very hardworking people that do our best to create worlds for your entertainment. So it's important that you value that work and you tell your kids that it's okay to be that and it's okay to explore, what you want to do. I could talk forever about this.
I love that. And you know what? I told that, and this is something I say on air often. If you're gonna buy the Falaki people stuff, fucking buy our Pacific people shit too, man. Like, don't just go buy your Nike and not buy our merch as well. Any last words you guys want to share before we wrap it up for the night?
I want to say, be bold and go out and do, honestly, if it's in your heart, you're meant to do it. Like, don't steer away from that. Like, you will find the way. Like, honestly, if you just be brave and go out there and be like, I just want to do this. There might be like 5 people that go, oh, okay. But then there might be like 5 other people that go, okay, I'm going to get behind you and back you. Like, you really just don't know. And if you can be brave enough to have that conversation or just say it out loud to anyone who's listening, you're going to eventually find it. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah. Just put it out. Yeah. Stop sitting on it, put it out. Don't overthink it. It's not that deep. I know it's that deep to you, but it's really not that deep. Put it out. Find somebody, shoot you a little music video, and turn the comments off. And put your phone on Do Not Disturb. That's what you're gonna do, okay? That is the only place you're gonna find the learnings when you put it out. So do it. Stop talking about do it.
Some great advice coming from Jazz as well as Pati. Let's give them a round of applause for tonight.
And also a round of applause for our beautiful host.
Thank you. A massive shout out to the FETU Creative Forum, to the Mangere Arts Centre. You know, like you said, you know, there's a whole bunch of people. Shout out to the lighting crew, to the workers and stuff here at MAC. And find out who they're going to be having on next season. Follow them up on their social media at FETU_Creative_Forum. Did I get the app right?
Oh my goodness. Look at
I looked at her, she looked at her.
People.
But other than that, thank you ladies and gentlemen for joining us. That is us. Peace out.